It's on.
Is it on?
Maybe the battery died already. That would be really appropriate.
It's on.
Is this one better? It's a little bit better, right? Let's try number one, because the candidates are gonna get that. Number
So we
three.
can hear you, but not.
One was working better than three.
One is working fine, and three is, we spent 20 minutes doing this earlier. And
How about all the people in the back standing up?
my battery,
I think they can probably hear us without a microphone.
you
Yeah, I
think
think
so?
they probably- Yeah.
Can you all hear us?
This looks like the young people, they can
They can
manage.
hear me.
Well, thank you for coming. My name is Don Morse, and I have spent many, many hours in this room in other positions, and I'm privileged tonight to help you get to know the candidates a little bit better, hopefully than you did when you walked in the door or read the materials that they prepared. And on your right, my left, is Derek Moore, and Jeanette Griswold, and Martha Troy, and David Van Oven. Jason Profit is a candidate also, and he is unable to be here tonight. He notified us today. He has been a resident, I think, for about the past 18 months and a homeowner since October. And he is also in your materials as a candidate, and he still intends to run, although he was not able to be with us tonight. And so we don't get the benefit of hearing the answers to the very probing debate-like question. We'd like to start this evening with giving each of the candidates about 3 minutes or less to introduce themselves, and probably I would encourage them not to repeat all the information they put in their bio. That's probably trippingly on the tongue, but something different, something new that we might not already know that would make them very attractive for us. And I'm just going to start on the left and go this way and go back this way, and I have a whole list of questions here. And as they answer some portions, I'll check it off, and then we get to the probing at the end. Okay? The candidate proctology. So, here you go, Derek.
All right. Well, thank you. My name is Derek Moore. I'm actually originally from New York and New Jersey. I'm a Yankee fan. Are there any Red Sox fans in here? I just lost one vote. But I've done a lot of marathons. I've actually done a couple Ironman triathlons, so that's not on the sheet. At least I don't think I've been on. But one of the things that really prompted me to volunteer to run, I do think everyone who's on the board is really a volunteer and spending time. I've been on boards before. I have a long history in finance. I won't repeat all the talking points on there, but one of the things at my old residence, which was down in kind of mid Scottsdale, was really had a lot of big projects, large projects that we had to bring to fruition. But the main thing is I really enjoyed talking with residents and getting input, and I'm very easy to deal with as far as a board member. My prior boards would say that it built a lot of consensus. So you guys can read the other talking points, and so I'll pass it along.
Well, my name is Jeanette Griswold. I have no clue what I put on the bio sheet, so so you're probably going to hear it again because I don't remember what's there. I moved to Greyhawk in 2001. I was president of the GCA Board for 5 years. I am back on the GCA Board again. And I brought my business to Greyhawk in 2003, which was Scott's Common Insurance Services. Sign's still on the building, but I sold the business last year. And so I still work there. I'm senior vice president and managing this office here. And I have obviously also served on board since I'm currently on GCA, and I'm president of the offices at Greyhawk. And I too like talking to residents and do that all the time and try to get ideas of things that might enhance the community. And so I think that's what would make me a good board person, is because I believe in listening to everyone and then trying to build consensus. And so, hope you vote for me.
And I didn't prepare a speech. I've been in Greyhawk since 1999. I've seen it grow from dirt front yards and all the empty spaces basically filled in. And I love living here. Have seen us evolve in terms of things like one book club. We now do 6 book clubs, joint book clubs, which I've been in throughout the years. Also part of a hiking group within Greyhawk. We've got a little gang if you see us walking. Sometimes Arlene and I wear our shirts that say Landscape Patrol. No, we're involved, and I enjoy living here, and I think that's it. David.
Hello, I'm David Van Omen, and I've been a resident here since 1997. A couple things you might not know about me. I've never had a traffic ticket in my life.
Because your car weighs 12,000 pounds and won't accelerate.
I actually got photos snapped about 2 months ago, and the ticket never came in the mail, so I don't know what happened.
Be patient.
Probably. Actually, it's more like 4 months ago. In the city of Phoenix. Oh, I have to worry.
Yes.
All right. Anyway, I too have spent countless hours in this room. Probably have more longevity on the board here than anybody in this room. I actually started on the advisory board when Greyhawk Development was in control of the community. If you know who I am, you know I spent a lot of energy and a lot of money and a lot of time promoting this community. I'm very passionate about it. I love it. We moved here for a purpose because I knew it was going to be a great destination community. And my wife and I just spent last week recarpeting our whole 3,700 square foot house. Kids are gone, and we've committed we're staying in that house for at least another 10 years. So even if we moved out of there, I know we moved somewhere into something smaller in Greyhawk. So thanks for coming tonight, and Don, I'm really looking forward to your questions.
There's several nice, slightly smaller properties for sale in my neighborhood. And that one very nice one that you
I
previewed.
think you want me as a neighbor.
So the next opportunity we have is for you to ask the candidate questions, if you would like. And then if you don't cover all of my bases, I will ask my probing questions toward the latter part of this event. And I think if you have a question, it might be interesting for you to hear the response of each candidate, unless you specifically know how other candidates think and you want just to hear a response from a candidate that you don't know. So I'll deliver the microphone to the candidate of your choice. Would any of you like to ask questions that you feel are important for the people who represent you and basically are the stewards of a lot of your money? I have one, ladies first and then right here. Yes, Linda.
One of the things that the board is concerned with is being involved in not only the Greyhawk community, but the larger community surrounding us, Scottsdale and various neighborhoods nearby. Could each of you tell us a little bit about what your background is in the Scottsdale community or within Arizona in areas other than just Greyhawk?
Do I always get to go first? Is that the? Sure. So, sorry, I'm getting off screen. I'll help you out here. Yeah. So I moved to Arizona in 1996. I moved from. I was living in New York and New Jersey, and I was supposed to be here a year. I just never left. It was too easy to live. But so one of the things, the community I was at Indian Bend and Hayden, in a community called Camelview Greens, and so. One of the things that we really, there were a lot of large projects, not only within the community, but also around the community. If you've ever driven down Indian Bend Road, they went from 1 lane to 2 lanes, and that was a pretty large construction project. And so one of the things that, you know, certainly in my time on the board there, we had to not only deal with what's in the community, but we had to deal with whether it's developers, it's construction, it's the city. And so I think that those same things are important. If there's construction, if there's plans, we talked about, you know, DMB doing things down off of Scottsdale Road, whether it be new shops or businesses that are going into over here on the corner, you know, at Greyhawk and Scottsdale. So I think it's important where we can make an impact to have a voice and to try and shepherd the discussions in the way that will benefit the community. But in the end, it's really about how do we maintain the values? What are things that we can do to try and shape the formation and the development? And then the other thing is understanding and trying to work and find consensus with the different partners. I think in the example of the widening of Indian Bend Road, some of the things that they initially wanted to do, we were able to sort of lobby them and get them to pull back on some things, and it wound up being a better project for the community. So I think kind of all those things. Sorry.
Well, I have been involved in the community since I moved here in 1987. And I was on the Chamber of Commerce Board for 7 years. I was on the Airport Advisory Commission for 6 years. I was on the Scottsdale Girls Club Board for I can't remember how many years. And then we merged with the Boys Club, so then I was on that board for a while. And when I first moved to Scottsdale, I worked with Bill Soderquist, who was then a city councilman. And as a result of that, I met a lot of people that I might not otherwise have met, and I currently know 3 of the city council people very well. So I would have, a voice, I think. They might listen to me. But I've known Virginia Cordy for 20 years, Linda Millhaven for 20 years, and I was on the steering committee for David Smith when he was elected in the last city council election. So I think I'm fairly well connected and could have an impact.
When I first moved here, I had retired from nursing and decided I needed to find a focus. And for the past 15 years, I've been a volunteer, a chairperson, a fundraiser at Chrysalis, which is a shelter for domestic violence in Scottsdale and Phoenix. And that, for the first 5 years, turned out to be a full-time job for me. I've kind of tapered off and am episodically involved with them. 2 years ago, because I've taken advantage of all the hiking trails in the surrounding area, decided that I needed to pay back and became a steward for the McDowell Sonoran Trust. The other thing that we're working on, looking at Jen, is pickleball courts, we hope. A project with a demand, fastest growing sport in America. So we're looking at that. I'm open for just about anything, new activities. And landscaping, I mentioned, Arlene and I patrol the community regularly. Probably get over-involved. There are people who'd rather see us back off a little. But that's it.
I heard the pickleball court's going in Monterey in the Talon Retreat right by Don's.
Oh, yeah. And Don, have you heard it? It's
Gonna be pretty cool, so.
That's why they were stripping the land there around the golf course.
Yep.
Yeah.
Aside from all my experience in Greyhawk and my longevity here, I've actually lived in the city of Scottsdale since 1975. I went to high school at Saguaro High in Scottsdale, and so my wife and I have resided in the area. If you don't know it, I'm a realtor with RE/MAX, and I've been selling real estate in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area since 1982. It's the only job I've ever had, so I bring a lot of experience. I bring a lot of experience to the board. It seems like every month where there are questions about what's going on in other communities, and I am also the chairman of the development committee, so it is my job to bring to the board information about what's going on around the surrounding neighborhood. DMB, we're very involved with them and what they're doing. Mike and I have had meetings with them, and so I bring a lot of expertise, real estate wise, as to what's going on in this community. Thanks.
Mr. Kuykendall, your question.
Yes, one of the concern is that Greyhawk is starting to get older, 20 years or so. With all the, well, I'd like to know what you feel would be, I know there's a lot of things, but the top priority that you would think to keep us relevant or competitive with everything that's new that's being built around us. What do you think is the most important thing to keep us the community that we are, with the name that we have, and not just an older place?
We're not going to give David any time to think this. You're right back down.
That's an awesome question, and it's going to always be relevant for us. The community's 20 years, 20 years, is my math right? I don't want to be the accountant for the board, but it's a very relevant question, and I see this all the time selling real estate, and I own some other properties in Scottsdale and Phoenix where they haven't kept up the HOAs very well. I think Greyhawk's done a fabulous job of it. Our paint scheme that we changed to is all relevant. If you look at the monument areas where we've been changing out the monument areas and putting in different landscape and some little riverbeds and the newer flowers and everything, very relevant. So I think the board's doing a good job of that, but it's something that's very key. How do we keep Greyhawk state of the art? One thing is we have a nice kitty in our enhancement fee. We've got $1,700,000 or something in there. So these projects that come up that we see to keep Greyhawk, what we want to do is make Greyhawk a destination community, and we want people to think Greyhawk when they're moving here. And why? Because it's house values, and we're all concerned about the house values. So I think the board overall, all the way back, has done a very proactive job of looking ahead. And this is part of our task force too. On our goals and our checklist is what's going to happen with the surrounding neighborhood or the state land, etc. I think we're proactive, so but it's a relevant question, keeping the houses looking good. The whole big concern I have is, and I talk to Mike about it almost every quarter, when's the city going to repave the park section of the streets, because they're all old and lots of holes in there. And I noticed in my cul-de-sac little weeds growing up, so it's starting to look like Detroit.
As David said, as a board, this has been one of our goals, is how we can remain relevant. And we really have done a good job of maintaining the community. We're looking at getting our name out there, being involved beyond ourselves, community outreach, whether it's doing community projects like a paint-a-thon, adopting a street out here so that we're visibly involved in the community, not just a little microcosm. Get the word out.
You don't all have to stand up all the time.
don't?
Your
Okay.
knees will give out by the end of the meeting. We're preserving our knees.
Well, though I have not served on the board for the Master Association, I too think that they have done a stellar job of trying to stay in front of the issue that you brought up, because it is a very relevant issue. But I think they have consistently tried to stay in front of it by being proactive and making the improvements that they have. I also think that the Master Association Board works well with all of the neighborhoods to also encourage them to stay up. And so I think we just need to continue doing that, but constantly be thinking about what could we do better.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I moved to Greyhawk is one, the schools. I have a 5-year-old. That's important. Now, that school, we don't have a lot of impact on the school. We can't really, help them be a better school, but that's big. But it's certainly the appearance, the location of Greyhawk, and I think, by the way, I think the board's done a good job. And by the way, there's 5 people running for 3 spots. That's pretty rare in the community. So whoever you get here is going to be really good involved. I think there's a couple of things. Number one is, to echo some of the comments, I mean, there are little things that you can do in a community. One of the things I've done a lot is travel for work. And you go into these hotels, and you ever go into a lobby of a hotel, and they've redone little bits and pieces, and then you get to the room, maybe the room's not as nice, but the lobby really drew you in. There's little things that you can do around a community and maybe spend a little bit of money. The other thing is that we did in where I used to live is we brought in some different vendors, and we tried to get some purchasing power, whether that's painters or whether that's kitchen people, or we did a little bit of a workshop. And so whatever anyone can do to help their home values, and whatever we can do to help people understand what they can do within their homes to try and increase value, I think those are all good things. But I think the community looks great. I mean, there's nothing, normally you go to a board meeting and people are really up in arms because, that darn board isn't doing. The community looks good. And I think it's just keep it good, and let's be creative about finding value. So.
You're too young. We had some very lively board meetings over 9 hours. So, Very good question. Are there other questions, please? I'll help you out. Oh, go ahead.
Does anyone have any suggestions in terms of engaging additional people in the community in some of the projects that you are talking about, so that you can create the next generation of people to serve?
We're going to start here, go there, and then this way.
Well, actually, it's funny that you bring that up. That's one of the things that I am very passionate about, is like building community and trying to enhance, you know, we've done I mean, the Greyhawk Board has done a great job of, you know, keeping everybody informed with the flight and with the Greyhawk bus and things like that. But one of the ideas I had was to try and start a pay it forward committee. I don't know if it's a separate committee or a subcommittee of programs or a subcommittee, I don't have any idea where it would go. But if we did something like that, and then the committee could like do research on all the Scottsdale-based nonprofits, and then we could publish an article on one of them a month in the flight. And then I know a lot of winter visitors, when they come, they may do a lot of volunteer work where they're at their home, you know, where they consider home, but they don't do any out here because they don't know how. They don't know how to get them engaged. And so this committee could come up with a list of volunteer opportunities at all these places that they've, you know, investigated. And then they could publish it. It could be, you know, you could volunteer on an ongoing basis, on a group basis, on a one-shot basis. And so have that available for residents and winter visitors. And if you get involved in stuff like that with, you know, one or two other people, then you get to know them really well. And so that was one idea. I had another idea of doing, this is, I don't know if staff time would allow this, but to do like an electronic meetup board, you know, like an electronic bulletin board with a meetup that was primarily just for you know, like if you wanted to go out for dinner and you thought, well, it'd be nice to go out with another couple. Well, then you could go on the website, find other couples who like to go out to dinner and email them and see if they want to go, or text them, or whatever you do. And, you know, so it could be things like that, or just walking. I'm thinking, because I'm back on the GCA board, I'm thinking about doing something like this in GCA, because there's a lot of single people in my condo development. And I see us all walking out one by one. Whereas a lot of people, I actually meet somebody in the Talon Fairways that I walk with. So I walk halfway by myself, and then we do a 3-mile walk, and I walk home. But, you know, but people might like a walking partner. So it could be any number of things that you could do. It could be playing cards. It could be, you know, just any number of things that you could do. But to have this electronic bulletin board kind of thing where you could go on, find other people in your neighborhood who like to do the same thing and might like to join you. So those are a couple of my ideas.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I found with residents and getting them involved is if there's a project that sort of involves a few residents. I'll give you an example. So the place I used to be on the board, and we had to redo some of the pool fences. And so we went to the exact residents right around the pool fence who were most likely going to be affected the most, and we got their input and solicited their feedback. And so I think if there are opportunities within the community where things are happening, to go to the residents and try and get a little bit of feedback, you know, pull it out of them as opposed to just waiting for them to get involved. Because a lot of times, and this in my experience, that if you involve people in the process, they're more apt to be okay with whatever the outcome is, and so getting them involved early. But I like the ideas too of having these meetup groups and having more opportunities. You know, there's a lot of information, a lot of opportunity with online, and so leveraging the amount of residents that are here, whether it's getting discounts or whether it's forming groups, I think those are all great ideas.
I think this is something that we've struggled with as a board. We look how to get people involved. When I first moved here, all the neighborhoods were new. We used to have subdivision parties because we had a need to meet people. And I think what's happened is people have formed their own groups. We've tried to be responsive to people if they come up with suggestions such as Jeanette, you know, about a meetup or something, and follow through and see if we can try different activities. It's a very difficult thing to do. One of the other things I think we discussed was that when people are satisfied with their community, they tend as much not to come forward if, you know, if their needs are being met. The other thing is the community outreach, doing community projects. you know, you get a different group of people. And I think within Greyhawk, there are a lot of opportunities, whether it's hiking, book clubs, like the happy hours, if that's your thing. There are a lot of opportunities, but, you know, if we haven't hit your niche, I think request it.
All right, so don't put me on the communications committee, but.
I'd love to have you on.
We have an opening.
Okay, I'll do it. No, I think one of the things that I've always been a little disappointed is, but I think everybody realizes it, is the website. And revamping that website. Everybody's digital today on their phone, on the computer, and I think we can really utilize a new website to enact some of these meetups, greet-ups, whatever there are. And yeah, we've always had a hard time getting people to run for the board. Seems like we get good committee participation, but even that's a struggle sometimes too. So one of the other things I thought of maybe is we have a number of large events in the community every year, like the Easter egg hunt and the Halloween, or the Halloween, the pumpkin patch, the barbecue coming up in April. Is maybe board members, maybe we need to be there a little more proactively, all the board members, and reach out to the community, the people that come there, with agendas that we have coming up or things that we're in need of, maybe little pamphlets or something. Say, hey, we've got this program coming up, or we're thinking about this, or we need this task force for this. Are you interested in joining? And then the biggest trick is just trying to get a bigger percentage of people on that website. Where are we at, Jen, today? Like 40% of the community, 50%?
As far as
Registered on the
utilizing.
website and all that?
About
Yeah.
that much.
So
What do you mean by the website? I'm sorry to
the
interrupt.
greyhawkcommunity.org, right?
Right,
Is what it
okay.
is. So the resident website, so only.
Who have enrolled and have this,
Yes.
that password, okay.
So there's 3,800 and change residents in here, so it means we've only got about 1,900 people registered. We're missing a lot of people. And granted, there's a lot of snowbirds in that, but just getting these words out, I think maybe we just have to get a little more personal and maybe going to some of these events as a board and a group and just talking to people and getting the word out that way.
I just want to make an encouraging word, especially to our candidates, because Derek did point out we have 5 people running for 3 slots. And I was instrumental many, many years ago in forming an expanded committee format, which served 2 purposes. It first allowed for greater transparency in our attempt to involve residents in the actual business of the community. And then we moved to the chair of every committee being a board member, and so there was this constant communication pool of all of the committee activities. And I encourage you and the candidates that may or may not be successful to really consider that that is the way to go. For many years, I served on communications, development, operations, all at the same time, as well as on the board. And it takes a big commitment, but boy, you get to know residents and you get to know your community really, really well. So I encourage you to do that. Make yourself known, your talents, strut your stuff, so to speak, and you'll get involved really, really quickly. So, and I'm ready for another question, but don't fear if you're shy. I have many on my paper here. Well, let me ask one, and then if it inspires you, you can ask another. This one could be a little tough, and I want it to be short. What do you feel is your unique contribution to service on our board?
Coming to me first, all right.
It can be 1 word or 10, but not 50.
Yeah, so
You used it.
let me boil this down real quick. So one of the things I thought I did a really good job was a lot of people have ideas. A lot of people want to do things, but ideas are just ideas until you execute on them. I think one of the strengths that I bring to that is really bringing an idea to execution and understanding what can be done, what can't be done. And if it's a good idea, let's do it. But here's the path to execute it. It's just an idea until you do it.
It's a hard question,
It
Jeanette,
is a
but you're
hard
used to
question.
hard questions.
Yes, I am. Well, I think because I was a business owner, that, I know how to try to pull people together to work as a team and to accomplish goals. And so obviously I would continue to do that as a member of the board while watching out for the finances. And, just reach out to people, because since my business was insurance, I was constantly talking to people, so. And that's my favorite part. The paper part, I didn't like at all.
I'm open to suggestions. I'll try, you give anything a try, evaluate it. Don't say no to anything before you explore it.
2 words, available and experience.
Great.
Easy to get along with.
While you're
No, she
thinking,
didn't say
get your
easy.
hands,
She
get
said
your
easy.
hands ready to go. I'm willing to stop, but I have some really hard ones.
Oh, we want to-
And we have 2 incumbent board members here. And I would like us all, including the incumbents, and this is going to be a little bit self-confessional. What one thing do you feel our current board needs to improve upon?
Don't go to me first.
Your concern in the back in terms of expanding the number of people who are involved within the community. We've done a much better job reaching out to the condo associations. We see more involvement in that arena, but I still think we could do a better job.
I've been to other board meetings and properties that I own, and hostility comes to mind in a lot of those communities, because there's a lot going on, there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of problems. I've been flabbergasted, and I know Don mentioned that we've had a lot of people, or we've had some board meetings that had a little, I can think of a couple where there was some fireworks, but for the most part, we rarely have 5 or 6 people that show up to the board meetings, and it's because this board for decades has run really, really well. And the reason it does is because the committees are fantastic. And the committees are the ones that do all the groundwork, and they bring the suggestions to the board, and it's almost a layup for us to look at what they brought to us and approve it. So, biggest challenge, I would say still again, is participation in the community, getting people to help us, input, etc.
Linda, how many committees do we have? 7, I believe?
9, 10, 9, 9.
9 of 7 people each, without a whole lot of overlapping. Think about that. A
Well,
meeting
we have
every
a-
month or
We
every
have a
other
limit
month?
that you can only serve on 2 committees, so
Right.
we don't have people who are just on every single committee, and it's the same one, we have different people.
That speaks to David's idea of how this whole committee process percolates from the ground up. Occasionally, although I think they're pretty happy now, occasionally, sometimes to management's consternation, what in the heck are they thinking of now? Because many communities run on a model where they hire a management company, and that's all there is to it. So, one unique improvement.
Well, I concur with what's already been said. Like I said before, I think engaging more people is always a challenge. And so I think that would probably be number 1, but number 2 would be what's already also been mentioned, the website could use a lot of help.
So, yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? I mean, one of the board that I served on, we had a mess of a management company. We didn't have a person at our meetings every week. They embezzled money from other communities. Thankfully, we didn't lose any money. And it was really tough. I don't get that sense from any of the people who are on the board, nor do I get the sense about the management company. I have a good feedback of the management company. So, look, I mean, I don't think there's issues with the board. I don't think there's necessarily issues. There's always things that you can improve upon. But I do think it'd be interesting, to your suggestion about the website. And just the idea of revamping that, making it more dynamic, adding more things. It's fairly easy to do if you don't If you have a little bit of expertise, I'm not volunteering to redo the website, because I'll get stuck at some point, you guys will need to pay for. But I think there's a lot of opportunity there. As far as the committees, I think it's important too. I mean, some people want to live in a community and they don't necessarily feel the need to be involved, nor do they want to get involved. So I think it's important to not push it on people, but where we can find things to to involve people. Like I said, there's projects. Let's get the homeowners who are most going to be affected and get the feedback from.
Yes, sir.
The perception, I'm not saying it's true, but the perception is that the legislature stuff here is anti-HOA. Do you feel that there's a problem coming, or maybe more than one? They constantly changing things. There's some of them that it seems to me run their whole campaign on, we're gonna get rid of every HOA in the state, so.
Because their great-grandmother lived in a trailer park in Mesa
But-
with a homeowners association which charged her $10 for the flagpole.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's still, but it is, and what they do can have a tremendous.
Mike's pretty dialed in on what's going on in the legislature all the time, so we do look to Mike and the management company for telling us kind of what's coming down the pipe. One of the things that's been rumbling for years, I think even when Don was here, was our community, our Greyhawk community enhancement fee, and the legislature may be taking those away. I think when our forefathers, whoever put the community, was it Cliff Tate that was responsible for the Greyhawk community enhancement fee? I don't know who started that back in '98. Yeah, I think it was Cliff Tate. As a realtor, we hated it because it's a negotiating thing, and in every transaction we have to decide who's paying for it. It's just this constant thing. As a homeowner, I love it. I really do. I love it. It's a great thing. That would be one thing I would be worried about seeing go away, because we've utilized it for so many things that enhance the community. And we've got a nice kitty, and it keeps growing every month. And every month we spend it. So, but that would be one thing coming down the road that I would be nervous about. I'm not aware of any other things